Welcome to the Douglas Murray channel. Today we'll discuss the Israeli-Palestinian conflict with various perspectives on the historical context, the legitimacy of Hamas, media influence, civilian casualties, and the need for mutual recognition for peace.
Our Middle East historian Taj Hage, Barack Obama said this. He said, if someone was sending rockets into my house, where my two daughters sleep at night, I'm going to do everything in my power to stop that, and I would expect Israelis to do the same thing.
I mean, that's quite true, but the point is we need to understand how the situation has come about. We seem obsessed with the current situation. We need to understand how Israel came into being. You know, we can debate here from now until doomsday about what's happening today, but we need to understand what has created the situation. How many of us know about the Hussein McMahon correspondence? How many of us know about the Sykes-Picot Agreement? How many of us know about the Balfour Declaration? All of them are duplicitous agreements that brought about the state of Israel.
But we are where we are.
Yeah, and to call Hamas a terrorist organization, what is the Stalag, the Irgun and the Haganah? How many of us know this? You see, we only know one side of the narrative. It's easy for people to say that Hamas is a terrorist organization, yet they were democratically elected. I might not like that. In fact, I don't agree with Hamas a lot of the time, but I cannot say they're just terrorists. How come one person's terrorist and another person's freedom fighter?
Andrew Murray?
Historian Taj Hage emphasizes understanding historical context, such as the Balfour Declaration and the Sykes-Picot Agreement, to grasp the roots of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Do you think delving into historical agreements helps resolve current conflicts, or does it complicate present negotiations?
Well, it's not the case that they're freedom fighters. The first thing that Hamas did when they were allegedly elected was to kill their co-religionists in the Gaza, was to throw people off buildings, to shoot people in the back when they're running away. This is what the Hamas do to their own co-religionists in the Gaza, to other Palestinians. So the first thing is that Hamas not only inflict terror on the people of Israel, they also inflict it on other Palestinians. It's for the Palestinian peoples, as the rabbi said, to try to overthrow this terrorist organization. An organization which fights, if I may just finish. Well, an organization which fulfills every...
Come off it.
Well, I don't know what else you call an organization which has killed hundreds of it.
What was the Irgun? What was the Haganah?
Well, the Irgun and the Haganah are not operating at the moment.
No, but what were they?
Well, they were terrorist organizations at the time. But I would say that we're talking about what's happening at the present. And the present situation is that Israel builds bunkers in which its civilians have to shelter from rocket fire from the Hamas. The Hamas builds bunkers and hides its rockets in it, and then puts civilians on top of those bunkers. That is a terrorist organization. That is an organization that has no respect. That is an organization that has no respect for human lives, not Palestinian lives and not Israeli lives.
F-16s?
Mahmoud, you know people in the Gaza, and also you're from the West Bank. Can you... And it's all about putting on a completely different pair of spectacles to try and understand the other side's position, because that's the only way we're ever going to get anywhere. Can you understand the Israeli position?
I don't understand the Israeli position because they are causing so much carnage and bloodshed at the moment that is completely disproportionate for what they are claiming to achieve.
Okay, Rabbi Shoket, could you... And Peter, I'll bring you in a second. Could you, as calmly as you can, explain to Mahmoud again your position?
Hage questions labeling Hamas as a terrorist organization, pointing out their democratic election and comparing them to historical Jewish militant groups. In response, Andrew argues that Hamas's actions, including violence against fellow Palestinians, mark them as terrorists. Can an organization be both democratically elected and engage in terrorism?
Well, okay,
that's the real problem Israel has.
Douglas, I think I could you Andrew earlier, and I apologise for that. You know, you have the stature of a tennis player, clearly. But how can this do anything but strengthen the Hamas position, not only in the region, but across the whole Arab world? They've all of a sudden, look at the march yesterday with thousands of people there, with Hamas, you know, I think it was 12,000 people, Hamas posters, you know, people like Alexei Sayle and Annie Lennox marching alongside people with Hamas posters, and all of a sudden they're sort of heroic freedom fighters.
Really?
They've been strengthened.
You think Hamas or Annie Lennox become heroic freedom fighters, or Alexei Sayle needs to tell you what's right and wrong in the world?
Your problem is this, if I may interject just a moment, your problem is this, that the very, very foolish and unbalanced ideas, a gentleman over there enunciated one of them just now, that Israel in this conflict is Goliath and the Arabs are David, when Israel in fact has about, 2% of the land mass of the Middle East and about the same population. This idea that Israel is the aggressive bully is created in the public mind. This war is not going to be won by rockets. It's not going to be won by tanks. It's being won or lost on the television screens of the world. If Israel loses the support of the peoples of Europe and North America, which is in grave danger of doing, then Israel will lose the war.
Douglas Murray.
When Israel risks, like in 2006, having 1 million of its civilians having to live under threat of rocket fire, this is something which should be beyond its concern about what European governments think or don't think. You mentioned earlier about the huge number of civilian casualties. I can't think of another situation in war in which a fifth of casualties are civilian, and in which the Hamas have suffered up till now perhaps as many as 400 casualties. 400 terrorists being killed seems to me to be good work. It's good work for the future.
Andrew asserts that Hamas strengthens its position through media portrayal and public support of protest. He argues that Israel is perceived unfairly as the aggressors despite its small landmass and population. How does the media influence public perception of international conflicts?
Of Israel is good work for the future of the region.
Upwards of 75 children have been killed. You can't call them terrorists.
No, I didn't call them terrorists. I said they were innocent civilians. But that 4 times that number of people being killed, the targeted people being killed, are terrorists, and they have been killed. And that can only be good for the region. It can only be good for Israeli security. And if the Arab world really cares about the Palestinian peoples, why doesn't it do something for them practical instead of whining about this tiny slither of land which Israel occupies? Why don't they realise that if there's going to be peace in the region, it relies on there being a Palestinian solution and it relies on there being an Israeli solution? That can happen, but the first thing that has to happen is that the Arab governments and the Palestinians realise that Israel isn't going anywhere. If they made that realisation, why would they be firing rockets into Israel proper? This isn't disputed territory. They're firing rockets into Israel. Why are they doing that?
I know where you're first, Peter.
We have to look at the root causes of this recent conflict. It didn't start on the 27th of December when the rockets started flying and the eruption of this recent conflict.
Douglas Murray highlights the disproportionate civilian casualties and the targeting of Hamas members by Israel. He criticizes Arab nations for not aiding Palestinians practically and suggests regional support should focus more on humanitarian aid rather than political rhetoric. The discussion shifts to the necessity of a Palestinian solution alongside an Israeli one for regional peace. Murray stresses that peace depends on acceptance of Israel's permanence. Why is recognition of statehood a critical step in conflict resolution? Thank you for joining us in this important discussion. Let's continue to seek understanding and strive for peace. Stay informed and engaged. Until next time.